Hello, I'm Jon Hammant, and you're watching The Cloud Therapist.
Excellent. Done in one take. The other guy had to do 3 takes with. Hello and welcome to the Cloud Therapist short session. I'm Richard Simon. This is going to be the top 5 2022 tech trends from AWS. I have the pleasure of welcoming Jon Hammant. He is the AWS Head of Compute for UKI. Hello, Jon. How are you doing?
Hey, not too bad, thank you. How are you today?
My pleasure to have you on. It's been great to talk to you and kind of do the planning for the sessions. Really looking forward to it. So obviously you guys have kind of launched some stuff around sort of the tech predictions for 2022. I think Werner Vogels has put out a document based on that. There was also a lot of stuff that you guys I think mentioned at the reInvent from last year, 2021. So those have all been really good sort of announcements and what you guys are sort of up to for this year. So Jon, let's dive straight into kind of the top 5 that you wanted to go through, please.
Brilliant. So thank you very much. So what I'll do is I'll just go through the start from the top. So the first trend that we've seen going into 2022 is really this rise of pervasive AI. So for years, people have talked about machine learning, artificial intelligence, deep learning, all the changes that have gone through it. I think 2022 is one of the years where you're going to see these increasingly narrow but really transformative applications of AI coming in. You can see them in anywhere from going into the Amazon Go shops, where all of a sudden machine learning and visual recognition enable cashless shops.
Yeah.
You can see really interesting use cases coming around, things like the AWS DevOps Guru piece of things, and this ability of having AI adding to software development is really fascinating. And I think that's something that's going to become increasingly interesting over the year. And I think the other big trend that's really running through is this move to autonomous vehicles and this really useful real AI giving real impact. And what's fantastic about all of this, it's really kind of coming to this almost chimeric relationship where it's human and AI combining together to create tools and services and delivery that are things that weren't necessarily possible before.
Fantastic. And I think one of the points I picked up was a lot of this from reInvent was a lot of this stuff is actually being done in real time now as well, which is absolutely fabulous, I think.
Yeah, it's unbelievable now. So everything from voice assistants to real-time search, real-time transcription is stuff that a few years ago just wouldn't have almost been thought to be able to do. Yeah. And the scale and impact that this has, I'm always amazed when I go through and I watch things like this online, and the fact that you can do real-time transcription into closed captions, it's just fantastic changes. I think taking AI initially it was in this position for a while. I think it's been viewed as such a broad topic, diving it down into really specific use cases, whether that's about fixing bugs in software or catching vulnerabilities before attackers have taken them. Is really one of the big changes that you're starting to see over the course of 2022.
Excellent. So what else you got for us, Jon?
Yeah, so cloud everywhere. So if I look at how people have used the cloud traditionally before, it's really been seen as we have our traditional data centers, we will expand out into the cloud. And that is a whole paradigm that's just completely changing at absolute rate of knots. So some of the things that I'm lucky enough to run in the UK, I run our hybrid business for the UK. Previously, we kind of dipped a relatively large foot in the water, probably the best way of putting it, and we went into initially Outposts, which some people may have heard of. Outposts originally were these relatively large 42U rack, effectively AWS in your data center side of things. We're really doubling down and expanding on that, and that's coming through either continuing our move with Outposts. We're launching Outpost servers this year, so if you so wanted, you can get a 2U version of Outpost, and we see lots of different use cases for this, and whether that's either where you have data sovereignty or locality requirements, where latency requirements are there, but this whole concept of having the same control plane where you're able to execute that against both things remotely in the regions and in your data centers themselves. And then we've got a whole new product line that's coming out of our EKS and our ECS Anywhere series, and that goes one step further. It's really interesting to see AWS almost turning into a software company in some ways, whereby with the anywhere line of things, you can bring your own servers to it, and effectively we run a container hosting platform that sits on there. And I think, if I look at how the cloud has changed and matured, I think increasingly these new use cases will come up by having local data access. And then I suppose the final thing to sound this, the other thing that some people realize we're doing, some people don't, is both our wavelength. So we're at the moment in 5G data centers and able to provide cloud within the telco coming back out, and then also our local zone investment. So if I think of online gaming companies, or I think of people that have hard latency requirements that the smaller number of regions won't take, we're rolling out a large number of these local zones, so kind of mini AWS regions which sit across EMEA at the moment. And I'm really, really excited to see. It's just the really exciting things that our customers are making with them, and that's everything from streaming AR and VR to all kinds of interesting use cases where you need that high performance, low latency connectivity back into AWS.
Excellent. And your third one, I think, was you said, I think it was architecting for sustainability. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm really proud of the sustainability work that AWS does at the moment. We've one of the leaders on the net zero and some of the climate pledge, which we jointly founded. So we're really pushing to a position where AWS in itself is sustainable. I mean, we've got some really fantastic stats around that using AWS as for your compute effectively uses about a fifth the amount of carbon. And really what we're trying to do this year is go one step further and get to a position where people are architecting their infrastructure and their apps with sustainability at the front. And where we want to go to, sustainable apps and sustainable infrastructure should be, one, cheaper to run, and two, better for the planet, and three, better for consumers in the end. So really getting to a situation where people understand the carbon impact that what they're running has. And we're doing all kinds of things around that, whether that's either custom processes around our Graviton line, which are far lower power, whether that's going into some of the elemental offerings and the video transcoding and streaming, and you'd be amazed by the amount of power that video transcoding uses globally. And then even now starting to go into some of the more esoteric stuff that we have, like quantum computing, for example. I mean, I think there's a really interesting long-term question about the amount of, so going back to the AI point, the amount of energy usage that training these really big data sets is going to have, and where it's going to continue to grow. And I think actually a lot of the work that we're doing around sustainability is absolutely key to that. We want to make sure that the cloud that we're running and the cloud that we're helping people run on is greener year over year over year.
Absolutely. I think that's quite fundamental for really, it's kind of not just the planet, but also the types of services that you guys, can offer, and everybody can, take advantage of. So that leads us very nicely into your number 4.
Yes. So the democratization of technology. I think this is a really fascinating subject. So if I look at tech at the moment, where is it hard and where is it missing? And the reality is a lot of the challenges come around skills and people's ability to operate and drive things at scale. There are not enough Unix specialists out there. There are not enough SRE specialists out there. There's not enough DevOps engineers by a long shot. And the only way that this is going to we're going to manage to do this transformation into the cloud is really getting to a situation where we can have abstracted levels of services. So, if you're thinking about building a data platform, for example, a big data analysis side of things, one option is to hand crank that and build it together, which is significantly difficult just to build once and then to upkeep. The other option is to go to something like SageMaker, and really go to these managed services that come across it. And one of the range of reason we pushed all of this so hard is because we see the results from the customers. The results of customers that go and hand roll Kubernetes and run it long term, the number of calls I've ended up on where people are having problems compared to using managed services around either EKS or ECS, or now increasingly things like App Runner, which require very limited amounts of code and limited amounts of configuration. And it's this democratization around it that will change it. I mean, it's, I'm a geek like yourself. I'm a tech geek at heart, so I spend a lot of my time building home projects and doing interesting stuff. And it's amazing for me now the things that I can create and I can put together by using APIs and using these kind of small bits of tech that I can layer together to make some quite amazing things. And I think that's where the business of the future will lie. It's how you join together and attach different bits of technology almost like Lego box. And that for me is one of the key things that we're really working on this year.
Brilliant. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, it's always the point I always try to make to customers is if it's not kind of part of your core business, then just kind of, bring it in as a service, because you spend more time trying to build it from scratch yourself. And as you said, that then has implications for, management and patching and updating and things like that. Whereas actually as a service, you can, as you said, API into what you're trying to do and get on with the other more important things.
And I think that's the key thing for I'd say for anyone. It's focus on what you differentiate about. Companies are good at certain things, so do the thing that you're good at, and the stuff that doesn't really add any value, let someone else do it. And that's what we do. That's what we're seeing increasingly. Companies are, their collections of online tools from Jira to GitLab to kind of AWS running through it. And it is an ecosystem, and it's something that, especially through the marketplace, we're trying to help bring that ecosystem in a nice way together. But where stuff doesn't give a benefit to it, there is just no reason at all to go through and do that yourselves. And I think that's something that we will continue to see, and we'll have some of the other trends. So things like AI, I think, will increasingly help that, and increasingly that's where I feel tech is definitely going to go. And the one thing I'd say about it as well, I think when serverless first came up, I mean, I used to be a Unix sysadmin years ago, and when serverless first came in, I talked to some friends still within similar roles, and there was this kind of almost a worry around it of what am I going to, if this is serverless, where is my role within it? And actually, I think it's quite the opposite. I think the more that we can come in and we can use these managed services and pull them in, actually, the more growth and the more requirement of people. So it's really good stuff, and it gets people to work on the more interesting stuff rather than the less differentiated work that no one really wants to do anyway.
I agree, and it's just as as the name implies, it's the democratization of of all those kind of services, really. Fantastic. And so last but not least, John, what's your fifth one?
Yes. So last for me is heterogeneous computing, which is a big name for a relatively, in a weird way, something that I've really enjoyed seeing coming back. I mean, I think if you look at the computing market for a while, it kind of came to this point where, what was computing? It was x86, and it was relatively standardized x86 on relatively standardized boxes. And what we're now seeing at the moment is it's almost this Cambrian explosion of different technologies that underlie it. And that's everything from GPUs to, we're seeing ASICs increasingly used in places. We're seeing one of my favorite technologies, FPGAs, where we have these field programmable gate arrays that are able to effectively reconfigure chips for specific use cases in things like DNA sequencing or certain areas of cryptography. It's absolutely fascinating. And I think previously, there's always been this view that barrier to entry to going into more specific architecture has always been too high. And one of the things that we're really working on at the moment is trying to make that piece easier. So, for example, we've launched, in conjunction with Intel, we've launched the Habana Gaudi, which are specific machine learning chips that are laser focused on machine learning. Or you see now specific inference instances, our INF1, which power the voice assistant that comes over pervasive. I won't say her name. So it's really, really interesting as we go to these really specific technologies that fundamentally allow us to do things that we could just never have done before. And I think this, it's just really interesting for me as a geek at heart. It's really interesting to see where suddenly we're just using the right bits of technology for the right job in the right place. So it's extremely, extremely, extremely exciting stuff.
Yeah, I think that's kind of going to probably get geeks like you and I sort of, get stuck into that. So
definitely.
Lots of stuff for us to play with.
You know what? It's amazing a year out there at the moment. I think there's all kinds of interesting stuff happening. And I think, if I look forward for the next couple of years of where I can see some roadmaps and some things happening, I think we've got a very, very, very interesting few years ahead of us within the tech industry.
Fantastic. Well, John, thank you for that. I really appreciate all your sort of interesting points. lots obviously for us to kind of think about and keep an eye on for, for the year. It's always exciting to be at the beginning of the year and see what's next 12 months is going to, next 12 months kind of got in store for us. So all the links will be in the description for the video if you guys kind of want to go and check out Werner Vogel's documents for the predictions and so on. It only leaves me, Jon, to thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to have you on, and hopefully we can do another talk quite soon.
Definitely. Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure both doing this and in the chats we've had before. So thank you very much for your time.
Excellent, Jon. Yeah, thank you everybody for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to support me on here. Thank you, and I will see you next time.